Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 139 of the Veterinary Behaviour Chat podcast. So, today I thought I would address this topic because it was a question that came up, not quite formulated in this exact way, but it was a question that came up during my Learn to Speak Dog and Learn to Speak Cat live Zoom call in the last week. And I thought it was such a great topic to address because it's actually something that I also thought about before I started my residency. And in fact, when I was, kind of looking for further education in the behavior space before I found the residency in veterinary behavior medicine, which, in the end is exactly what I wanted to do. But I was looking into all kinds of things in terms of, do I become a dog trainer, or, what other sort of options are there in terms of being able to support with behavior? And I guess, even when did I start looking into my residency? I think it must have been like 2017. I started toying with the idea or looking for something in terms of further education around behavior. And so that's 9 years ago. And even then, to me, and I'd been a vet quite a long time by then, the idea of veterinary behavior medicine, as I understand it to be now, wasn't sort of top of my mind. I also thought, oh, I'm going to have to become a trainer. I'm going to have to learn about all those things in order to be able to help behavior problems or patients with behavior problems. And it took me quite a long time to sort of really understand what is veterinary behavior medicine, in contrast to dog training, or even being a non-veterinary behaviorist or behavior consultant. And I remember having this conversation also with my residency mentor, Dr. Teresa DePorter, and her telling me that her mentor, Dr. Deborah Horwitz, who's very, very well known, that Debbie Horwitz had said to Teresa DePorter, "You're not a dog trainer, you're a veterinary behavior medicine specialist, or on the route to becoming a veterinary behavior medicine specialist." And so I think it's important to make that distinction. And by that, I don't want to, in any way, shape, or form, say that trainers aren't valuable. Some trainers are not that valuable, but if you've got amazing trainers, you want them as part of your sort of holistic care team, and you want to be working in collaboration with amazing trainers. And I'll tell you a little bit more about my thoughts around that in a second. But there is absolutely a distinction between what a vet practicing behavior medicine does versus what a trainer does. Not always, and it's everybody's individual choice, I guess, as to how far they get involved with sort of each area, I guess, of the treatment plan. But you don't have to be a trainer in order to be able to provide veterinary behavior medicine and behavior consultations. And that was a little bit the question I think that this particular person had was, well, can I even start offering behavior consultations without having some good trainers to refer to, and without, me myself wanting to offer that kind of behavior modification or training element of the treatment plan? And the answer I gave was, it would be an absolute shame. It would be a bit of a sacrilege, to be fair. It would be an absolute shame if you did not offer behavior consultations, because those patients need you, and there are so many. And there are so many ways in which you can start off a behavior treatment plan without offering the behavior modification piece. And sometimes the beginnings of a behavior treatment plan are all about making sure that we've got all our physical health pieces covered, that we're not actually needing to do further investigation and maybe treatment of physical disease. We need to maybe get the diet optimized. And then that whole piece around management and client education is such a huge piece that absolutely, I think I strongly feel is sort of part of my remit as a veterinary behavior specialist. How do we manage things? What are actually the things that we want to put in place? And then all of those kind of therapeutic elements of making sure that sleep is good, making sure that needs are being met, whether those are physical needs, whether those are social needs, making sure the environment is optimized for cats and dogs, making sure that the caregivers are really clear about why punishment isn't a good idea and how can we start doing that? How can we start changing the relationship between the caregiver and the patient? Like, there's so much that can be done without having to be a trainer. And I think many of us think initially, when we think about training, about that operant piece, right? And the very sort of hands-on piece about actually being with the caregivers and taking them through exercises and helping them. And I have to say, at the beginning of my residency, that's absolutely what I thought as well. I really thought that sort of, training piece was going to be absolutely instrumental. And if I didn't have that, I wasn't going to be able to make a big enough difference. And so what I actually chose to do was I chose to employ full-time in my business in Abu Dhabi in the UAE. I chose to employ a trainer who was with me for quite a number of years and was with me probably, I would say, through cases, 150 to maybe 400 of my sort of residency cases. So she was with me for quite a few years. And it worked well. It worked really well. We did the consults together. I advised on physical health pieces. I did the physical exam. We did that whole thing. Obviously, I advised on psychopharmacology if that was indicated. I set the treatment plan. I set the outlines of the treatment plan. I did the management pieces. I did all the client education pieces. I did literally, I would say 85 to 90%, I think, of what I think should be in a treatment plan. But then the trainer was brilliant at being there to implement some of those practical pieces, to actually physically go to the caregivers' homes, look at that sort of home environmental setup, help them to optimize that. And then when the patient was in a position to be able to learn, then also, started with some learning pieces. The trainer also did a lot of things like, puppy classes. And when we had puppy inquiries, a lot of them I would do initially, but I then got so busy that a lot of the puppy classes where we felt that it was going to be, basics and client education and setting them up for success, the trainer did. And that worked so well. And I felt, it was a really great way of doing things. Unfortunately, that trainer then left the country, and I had to kind of rethink a little bit my structure and how I was going to do things. But by that time, I'd made a lot of connections sort of in the behavior world, and I knew of trainers that I really wanted to work with. They were either trainers that I had supported on cases, or they were trainers, I'm going to call them trainers, but usually they are behavior specialists in their own right, or behavior consultants, or non-veterinary behaviorists that had worked with other veterinary behaviorists in the past. And I asked them whether they would be willing to collaborate with me on some cases. And I knew some of them were really great at separation anxiety. I knew that some of them were really great at, reactive or aggressive dogs. I knew that some of them absolutely love puppies, but I knew that they would do it in a way that was aligned with me. And so I built up a network slowly but surely of not many, maybe 3, 4, 5, behavior consultants, trainers, I'm going to call them trainers, who would then take over kind of the physical parts and the training parts of things. I work with one trainer who loves cooperative care. So when I have a case that really needs that piece, then I contact that person. And that to me is working really well. Now, I would say I still provide probably 85 to 90% of the support for my cases, the cases that come to me that I manage. But the pieces that I don't feel I want to do, or I can't do because I'm not on the ground, or I don't have the time to do that, I outsource to those trainers. Now, I know that one of the questions that came up was, in my area, I don't have any force-free trainers. I only, everyone in this area still works with shock collars, prong collars, and so on and so forth. And yeah, that can be a challenge. And then I would say, spend some time and look for somebody that's in your area, or, work with people that are maybe not particularly in your area, but that you can connect to your clients virtually. So that's what I do. I'm here in the UAE. I have trainers based in the US and I have trainers based in the UK. I work with those guys and they provide their services virtually. And that works also just as well as having people on the ground. Now, sometimes there are caregivers that absolutely want somebody on the ground in person with them. And then I will either reach out to my network and ask if anybody knows anybody in that area, or they'll do some research and we'll kind of figure it out together. But that, I don't feel that location necessarily needs to be a limitation anymore. I think in this day and age, there's so much that can be achieved. And actually many of the trainers that I work with only offer virtual consultations. Some of them do in person, but they'll do in person locally to where they are. And sometimes, that works and sometimes that doesn't. But, I think it definitely is. It takes a moment. It takes a while to find the people that you want to work with and to build up that strong network. But in the process of doing that, don't not offer behavior consultations, because I just think you would be depriving so many patients and families in need of your unique individual services, what you can offer, what you can provide, your understanding of behavior medicine. And let's face it, there aren't enough of us, there aren't many of us anyway. So it's really important that if you want to, you don't feel hindered or restricted by the fact that you don't think you maybe have the practical trainer type skills. Now, one thing I will say is I think you absolutely need to have a foundational knowledge of training, behavior modification, operant conditioning, classical conditioning, shaping, chaining, all those things. And again, that's what I absolutely also had to do as part of my residency. So that was one of our requirements, certainly for the American College of Veterinary Behaviorists, was that we do a course, whether that's a Karen Pryor Academy. I ended up doing the Susan Friedman, learning animals. Oh God, I can't remember even the name of the course. But anyway, Dr. Susan Friedman's course, which was brilliant, which really taught me about, understanding about learning and applying practically behavior strategies and so on. But then also, as I've gone on, I have found that the types of patients that I see, maybe more so than, operant learning or training, they need other things. And sometimes a trainer can get involved with that, showing caregivers how to do enrichment or how to kind of provide enrichment activities. Sometimes it would be, teaching calm or capturing calm behaviors. Sometimes, again, it would be helping in person with management strategies. Sometimes it would be teaching pattern games. Sometimes it would be teaching, processing, or actually how to practically do some of those, resilience building exercises or mental decompression exercises, like, how do I use a licky mat? How do I use a snuffle mat? But how do I use them in the context of helping that dog start to process their environment better? So you need to have an understanding and you need to be able to communicate with the trainer what it is that you're looking to achieve. I think it's really important for me a lot of the time that we're not doing obedience training. That's not the outcome unless there is a specific, exercise, a recall, for example, for safety reasons, or a U-turn or a get out of dodge type exercise in order to be able to, move away from a trigger to avoid, which is what we talked about in the last episode. So I want to be able to say to the trainer, hey, here's some exercises that I think would be really useful for this particular dog or cat because of this. Into cat aggression cases, I've worked with a couple of really great trainers where we've taught a recall to the cat, where we can call them away to different places, or, we've worked really slowly on visual reintroductions with the help of one trainer in the UK I'm working with currently on a case like that. So you want to have an understanding of what it is we want to achieve and also a little bit how we want to achieve it. You need to be really confident in the people that you're working with, but I don't think you have to be a trainer and go out and physically do that. You haven't got the time to do that in many cases. I know I haven't got the time to do that. And it also wouldn't be putting, I think, my specific skills to the best use. There are plenty of other people that are so much better than I am at those particular things. And I'm absolutely fine with saying that. And that's where that collaborative and that team approach comes in. But I 100% think that, especially if you're a vet and you're thinking of offering behavior consults and you're feeling a little bit worried about the fact that, you don't have maybe those training skills, but think about all the other boxes that you can tick. Think about the physical health, think about the medication prescriptions, think about the diets that you can get right, looking into gut health, into microbiome, into pain, prescribing psychopharmacology, but more importantly, getting that treatment plan overview right, understanding what the caregiver needs, building that strong relationship with the caregivers, educating them on brain processes and how the brain works, and why we're thinking of doing this, that it's a mental and emotional ill health disorder rather than a disobedience or bad behavior. You can talk about sleep as a vet, that 100% falls within our remit. So much of it does, optimizing things at home, making sure that the caregivers are not using punishment, putting safety strategies in place, recommending muzzle training, and then referring them, to the great trainer that can teach them how to muzzle train their dogs in a fantastic way. So yeah, there is so much you can do. So please, 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 don't hesitate to offer behavior consultations. If you're a little bit on the fence and you're worried about some of those things, let me tell you, I've been there, and I have had to learn a lot of those things, but I don't implement them. I need to know about them, and I want to know about them because I want to know that I am somewhat not in control of, but that I have the big picture overview over the treatment plan. But I also know that there are some pieces that are not my remit. Also, like if I find that there's a dog that has, true gastrointestinal disease, I'm going to refer those away to a specialist. Or if I'm suspicious of neurological disease, or if I need help with, pain, managing musculoskeletal pain, I'll refer to a pain specialist. I'll refer to a neurologist. I don't have any qualms doing that, right? We as vets, we refer to each other as colleagues. But equally, I'm just as happy to get a trainer involved, to refer to a trainer, to bring them into the fold, into the team. Physiotherapists, I don't do physiotherapy, acupuncturists, I don't yet do acupuncture, although that is something I am going to add to my toolkit. So yeah, just wanted to say that. I just thought it was such a great question, because I was so like, no, you have to offer behavior consults. We need you. Just because you're not that confident or you haven't found a trainer yet, don't worry, start. Everything else after that can fall into place. And if it's just that one piece that's missing, like there's so much you can achieve already even if you don't have that one piece in place yet. So that was a little bit of a philosophical career kind of episode, but yeah, and a little bit of I guess, sharing my journey around that and how I had to change my own mindset from thinking that I had to be able to do all that. I have to know about it, but I don't have to do it. There's a difference there. And yeah, how my evolution was through that. And if I can save some of you having to go through that kind of process yourselves and share my experience with you and how I navigated it and managed it, maybe that will help you to take the plunge and go ahead and set up a behavior service within your practice or something like that. All right. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'm going to see you next week for episode 140. Bye for now.